Story. Hot food for your soul. Trade? Mortimer and I stood in the valley at the foot of a granite mountain. We watched the chasms. Both were doorways. One led to the forest where otherworldly beings dwelled. Souls, not human, attending the halfway house needed to pass through this forest to reach us. The other crevice was for human souls attending my home. We waited for my next guest at the second chasm. He was escorted by Hamish, my old friend, a ginger cat that has the ability to move across dimensions. The breeze blew. I turned to see wafts of black mist trickling down the peak of the valley. Mortimer kept his eyes on the crevice for human souls. A harsh scream cut through the air from the forest. Mortimer turned my attention back to the crevice for human souls. Hamish sauntered through, followed by a young man that appeared grey and cold. Nimesh, that was his name. Mortimer walked over to Nimesh, who looked at him. "Follow you? Okay," Nimesh said to Mortimer. Mortimer's effulgence ignited. It expanded around us in the shape of a sphere. Together we strode up towards the peak of the valley into the waiting black mist. The halfway house was not visible yet, as there was a long way to go. We kept walking, slow and steady through the ocean of tentacles, thorns, and daggers that slammed against us repeatedly. Bang, bang, slam, rip. It was trying to break the sphere, to devour its contents. Mortimer kept going, Nimesh and myself behind him, and Hamish a few feet behind us. Reaching home, I guided Nimesh to the armchair in the lounge. The young man did not say a word all the way back. Hamish entered the house and scooted upstairs. I went and sat down in my armchair facing the fireplace. Nimesh watched the flames. Mortimer sat in his usual spot, that is on the rug next to my armchair. I looked over at the boy whose eyes were watching the flames. They were vacant. "Nimesh." He took a moment before he turned to me. "Nimesh, what happened to you?" He had a vacant expression on his face. I don't know." I closed my eyes and focused. Reciting a mantra, I opened them, all three of them. The lounge had evaporated. All that remained were tethers linking all beings. They pulsed, discharging beads of consciousness. I looked down at my heart. There I saw a sphere. It had a tether that exited through the crown of my head and rose vertically. My tether connected to the network of strings and spheres above me. Hamish, I thought. A pulse shot up from my sphere, exited my crown and zipped to the network above. It crisscrossed several strings until it located a sphere that glowed amber and red to the east. It then shot down to that sphere which was within a silhouette of a cat. "Your assistance is needed, old friend," I said. I cast my focus downwards. There were several spheres deep beneath me. Most of them emitted a red glow, and each one had a string that rose to the network above. I turned to my left and saw a large white sphere within the silhouette of a large golden retriever, Mortimer. To my right, I saw Nimesh's silhouette, only his sphere was tiny. It appeared to be failing, spurting bits of light. I closed my eyes. A moment passed before I found myself in my armchair. Mortimer was asleep, and Nimesh was watching the fire. He remained motionless. Hamish entered the lounge. He looked at me. I nodded, and then he went over to Nimesh and jumped on his lap. Nimesh looked down at the cat, as if remembering. Put his hand on Hamish's head. A warm glow emitted from Hamish. Nimesh inhaled. A brief sense of calm appeared on his face. He blinked. "Thank you," Nimesh said to Hamish. Hamish jumped down off Nimesh's lap and scooted away, heading upstairs. Sorry. What did I say? Nimesh sat up straight. Okay. Yes. I went home after finishing work. Went straight to the fridge. Nothing in there. It'd gone 2 a.m., so no chance of Mackie D's. Oh well, another trip to the 24-hour petrol station. A flapjack, bag of crisp, and tea will do me. Grabbed my jacket and left my flat. It was cold out. I hooked left and walked on. Petrol station was about 10 minutes walk from my flat. It was along an A road with trees and fields on both sides. Wasn't much traffic, so the road was dark. I mean, no streetlights dark, but I felt safe as I'd done it loads of times. I even knew the guy on shift there. Yeah, Sudhir. The geezer always wore a black woolly hat and black gloves, even in summer. When I asked him about it, he said he had poor circulation. Sort of looked like an imp. Always kept the doors of the shop locked. You'd have to go to the window to get your grub and pay for fuel, even around 6 p.m. I kept walking until I saw the red and white petrol station sign ahead in the distance. It was tiny, but I was getting closer. I sipped the coffee on the way back so that'll warm me up a bit. But then I shuddered, like someone had walked over my grave. I looked behind me. It was pitch black. Ahead, only petrol station lights. The rest was dark road, trees and bushes. Felt a bit ropey, so I walked faster. Nimesh turned his gaze back to the fire. He watched it. A few seconds passed. He blinked. Again. Right, sorry, I walked, okay. I walked to the petrol station, and sure enough, Sudhir was there manning the counter. Hey man, your fridge empty again? He grinned. He had a triangular face with a little pointy chin. His eyes were angled up at the ends. I don't mean slightly. I mean full-on wonky. Give us a chocolate flapjack, grab bag of quavers and a large coffee, no milk, thanks, I said, as I held my credit card in my pocket. Sudhir grinned. His grin grew until I could see the row of grey teeth in his mouth, like he'd been brushing with primer paint. Forget that stuff, man. I could do you one better. I asked him what he was talking about. He told me that round the back of the petrol station, his mate was running one of those hot food vans. He's got a decent curry and rice on with veg today. It'll cost around the same as this stuff. Go back there, get yourself a hot meal. Go on, mate, Sudhir said. Hot curry and rice would be nice, I thought. Okay, just give me the coffee. He'll sort you out there, Sudhir said. Does he take card? Sudhir nodded. I walked around the back of the building to the food van. Not a new one. This one looked like one of those old Ford metal vans that had been converted. It was small and had soul food written on the side of it in red lights. I walked over to the counter where a short man was grating cheese. He wore a black woolly hat and black gloves too. He grated cheese in one of those thingamajigs. Nimesh touched his temple. Grata? Grata. No, grater. That's it, a cheese grater. Don't know why I forgot that. I told him I wanted a curry and rice and coffee. The man didn't look at me. He got a couple of takeaway cartons ready and plated up. It was steaming. Ooh, nice bit of grub. He was quick. Then he pressed a button on the coffee machine and put both cartons in a plastic bag. Do you take card? I asked him. I will trade you the food for a handshake. Deal? You sure? I said. Of course. Deal? Sounds good to me. Deal, thanks, I said. That's when I thought he must be Sudhir's brother. The curry smelt good, so I stuck my hand out. He grabbed and squeezed. Ow! I pulled my hand away and looked at it. You cut me. He gave me the bag of food and cup of coffee as if nothing happened, then began grating cheese again. I walked home. My hand was still bleeding. Arsehole, I thought. The coffee cup kept it warm, so I made do. My other hand was holding the curry and rice. It smelled good. Can't wait to get home. I walked fast, kept going. Come to think of it, I must have been walking for hours, even though I only lived 10 minutes away. Nimesh rubbed his temple. I kept walking. Somehow I'd lost the food and coffee. I was walking much slower, but kept going. Not sure why. It didn't bother me. I didn't stop walking. It felt colder, that's all. Nimesh looked at me. I didn't realize then, but I must have been walking for days, and I didn't know. Nimesh looked at his right palm. It had a red slit on it that had not healed. It looked raw. Chilly. It felt chilly. Everything around me looked like one of those old black and white movies. I passed a few people. They looked grey and sad. I kept eyes on the grey pavement and kept going. Maybe my eyes were not working properly, but that didn't bother me. I didn't feel like eating. I had forgotten about work, friends, family. Didn't even think of them. I had a phone in my pocket, but I didn't know to make a call. I was tired and cold, but I didn't know how to fix that. All I did was walk, kept walking, that's it. Not even sure how long I was walking for. Nimesh rubbed his temple harder as if trying to drill a hole into it. I shook my head. You remember, from here. I placed my hand on my heart. That is what is gone. Your mind is fully functional, but it does not hold the memories you are searching for. Nimesh nodded. I saw Sudhir at the petrol station. I'm not sure how, but I found my way back there. I saw them packing the van. Sudhir didn't have his woolly hat on or gloves on. He had little horns. His hands were tattooed with what looked like thorns. They both saw me and they just laughed. I didn't do anything because it didn't bother me. Even now, what they did to me, I don't feel anything about it. They took my life, but I can't bring myself to get angry. I should be angry, right? I nodded. Can you fix me, please? Before I forget again? I can feel it happening already. Hamish's energy will fade. He just gave you a jolt so you could remember, I said. What did they do to me? They took a piece of your life force. It can be replenished, but that will take a very long time. Time that you do not have. Oh. Fade away, I guess. Not so bad. Can I go? Mortimer got up and looked at Nimesh. Mortimer is telling you that there is another way. Nimesh's eyes, the light diminished. Come with me. I can assist you in replenishing your life force, but it has 2 caveats. I focused on his eyes. You will need to decide whether you want to walk through the door or you can go back. Nimesh nodded. Hurry. Mortimer kept his gaze on Nimesh. He was fading before us. I walked out the lounge to turn left and strode to the 5th door on the left and opened it to a long road that split arid land in 2. It looked like a postcard from the Navajo Nation in America. I need to go in there, Nimesh said. You'll need to walk this road. Here time runs at a different rate, and you'll be able to exit when you have been fully replenished. What's that second thing you said? Nimesh stood in front of me. He clutched his hand with the slit. That last memory at the petrol station. That will be your only companion. It's not really loaded with relish, is it? Nimesh said. Your alternative is far worse. You will simply fade until you blink out of existence. What about those things with horns that did this to me? I placed my hand on Nimesh's arm. Sooner or later, each one of them will come here. When they do, I will deal with them. Be assured of that. Nimesh nodded. He stepped over the threshold onto the grey road with a yellow line that split the arid land in two. You are not forgotten, I said. Mortimer looked at Nimesh and gave him a gentle nod. Nimesh turned and walked away. I closed the door and made my way back to the lounge where I sat in my armchair. A double bourbon waited for me on the table. Mortimer circled his rug before sitting down and resting his head on his paws. Thank you, Hamish. I sipped the bourbon. I felt sorry for Nimesh. He just wanted something to eat after work. He got snared by two demons out to do harm. What will they do with a piece of his life force? The short answer is nothing. Once Nimesh's life force was taken from his body, he returned to the greater consciousness. Sudhir and his companion were not interested after that. Their aim was to damage the young man. They succeeded. Something to ponder. Hamish has a method to speed Sudhir and his companion's visit to the halfway house. I'll ask him about it later. As for me, I cannot intervene directly. Those are the rules set by the Divine Mother. We all have our limits. Even you. A parting thought. If you are offered a deal that is too good to be true, reject it, but you don't know who you are trading with and what commodity they are after. See you next Sunday at 11. Godspeed.